Okay, we had some technical glitches in the first 10 minutes, so we had to reboot the stream. For those of you who are watching later on, it won't be an issue. For those who are watching live, well, we apologize, but no one will hear this apology. We're going to start from scratch here because basically the feed got borked on YouTube and on Rumble. Hopefully we'll be okay. Good morning, JT. How are you?
I am fine. I am fine.
All right, let's start this from scratch here. Okay, so coming up in just a few minutes now, we're going to talk about this crazy story out of the Middle East, not just the giant oil slick off the coast of Oman, but also the USS Abraham Lincoln, which has been at sea for basically 9 continuous months, and there hasn't been enough food, water, or sanitary supplies to keep the sailors sane, and some of them are losing it, and some of them are jumping overboard. Others are having to be restrained by their comrades from jumping overboard. And it is a serious nightmare over there. Joining us to talk about all this is going to be retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski.
Kwiatkowski. Wait, it's Kwiatkowski. Karen Kwiatkowski.
Yeah. Thank you. Geopolitical analyst and former Pentagon officer who served at the NSA. That'll be coming up in just a few minutes, and we'll bring that to you. The situation in the West Bank has gotten so hairy that even Mike Huckabee, King Zionist, is angry and is demanding that Israel and the IDF do more. The IDF has been actually held at bay by these crazy settler colonist goons. And we were talking about, before the live feed went down, the Southern Kuril Islands, which is a disputed territory in the northwestern Pacific Ocean between Alaska and Russia and Japan. So we were talking about that. I don't see Robbie. I don't know where he is, but I'm sure we will find. There he is.
Yeah, I was over there working on the back end, nuking the old chats.
Cool, thank you. All right, cool. Go ahead. I'll leave you to that. Okay, so basically, long story short, Vladimir Putin visited the Southern Kuril Islands for the very first time. The history of this is that at the end of World War II, when Japan was in the Axis and the Soviet Union was an ally of the United States, Great Britain, and France, in August 1945, the U.S. dropped the 2 atomic bombs. And at that point, in the closing days of World War II, the Soviets finally felt like they were able, after VE Day and all that, to finally open the long-awaited attack against Imperial Japan. But by then, basically, the war was over. It only lasted a few days, about a week is my memory of this. And they as part of that, they grabbed these islands that were basically an outpost of the Japanese of mainland Japan. They're fishing villages. They're windswept. They're not. They can see Sarah Palin's house, as I like to say. And anyway, so Russia has occupied these islands ever since. The legal status of the Southern Kurils, I think it's fair to say, is kind of similar to the Golan Heights, right? Seized during war. There was never any kind of negotiation or discussion. There was never a peace treaty signed between the Soviet Union or its successor state, Russia, and Japan. And so basically, technically, Japan still has a territorial claim on these. Obviously, they're never seeing these islands again, right? And basically, it's like, dudes, after the shit you pulled in World War II, you lost them, and they're gone. They didn't. I mean, I guess the only claim they could really say is, well, we didn't really do anything to the Russians during World War II, and that's true. But anyway, the point is, there we go. I think Russia views this the way they view a lot of the art that they have at the Hermitage, like that they got at the end of World War II, seizing it from the Nazis who seized it from other people. Like, listen, we lost 28 million people. We defeated Nazi Germany. This stuff is ours. It's just how it is. Possession is 9/10 of the law, right?
Right. And as you pointed out, they're never getting those back. Medvedev came out and said Takaichi can prattle on all she likes, but the Kuril Islands were, are, and remain Russian land.
Well, I think that's true. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is Russian territory. She can complain all she wants. Um, I want to talk about the people jumping off of boats.
Well, we're
I
going to get to
am,
that with our
yeah,
guest. So yeah, but
yeah.
we can
But
start though.
before,
Yeah.
well, yeah, because I'm wanting to get your take before the guest gets on. I thought to myself when I heard that story, so they want to kill people in luxury, and it made me think how real war is versus, well, we're getting a good meal, we're getting good foods, we have hot showers, etc., and we are hitting buttons in order to kill people somewhere else. Meaning we're fighting a war of aggression. I thought of this like the idea of soldiers who ate their guns. And, they're doing the story because they're like, oh, look at this poor Zionist, that ate his gun because of all of the babies he killed.
Yeah.
One less person. Like one less
I mean, I
monster.
guess they might deserve some sympathy for the simple reason that they're conscripts, right?
Yeah, I mean, the overwhelming majority of Israelis agree.
True.
With what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody has to do the work.
And you can refuse to serve, and there are very noble people who are in the IDF who refuse to be deployed to Gaza or anywhere else, and they are in prison, they are abused, so you
Right.
can't. This situation reminds me a little bit. Did you ever read, or I mean, I'm sure you read or watched Black Hawk Down, right? About the U.S.
Yes.
misadventure in Somalia in, I think it was '93, and
Mhm.
and one of the big takeaway, one of the things that grabbed me while you were talking, I flashed back to that, was okay. So they were defeated by dudes who were, I mean, had the only advantage they have was that they lived there and they knew the land, that they knew the city of Mogadishu.
Right.
But they were, they had these Americans, right? They have massive amounts of weaponry. They have crazy amounts of intel, satellite technology, blah, blah, blah. They still lost and got destroyed. But here's the thing, that there's images from that battle where, for example, they're hiding out in a building. They're trying to regroup and figure out how to attack the Somalis. And then an American helicopter, like a Chinook, comes in or whatever, or a Black Hawk comes in and drops, skids a pallet of bottled water to them. And I'm like, well, the Somalis don't have that shit, right? I mean, they're just like guys in T-shirts and shorts and AK-47s. Like,
Right.
Americans, that's the way we fight these wars. It's not like in World War II where, one soldier might be serving 6 to 12 to 18 or even 24 months in a row, maybe in more than one theater. And it's like that movie, The Big Red One, where the two guys at the end are like, I feel like we won World War II all by ourselves. We don't do that anymore. Like we're fat, we're thirsty. If we haven't taken a bath in a while, we don't do well in combat.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like real combat.
I mean, I think about Willie and
to,
Joe, the cartoon, from that was in Stars and Stripes during World War II with Bill Malden. There's there's a famous one where there's a lot of famous ones, but it's miserable, it's rainy, and one of them turns to the other and says, "Thanks for saving my life. Here's my last pair of clean dry socks." Right? It's like, because they dealt with really difficult physical conditions in a way that
right.
American troops don't have to usually now.
And I think that's the rub. And that's why the story bothered me so much. It bothered me in the sense of, okay, well, there's a philosophical responsibility of trust between a country and its military, because if you don't have a military, you don't have a country. Meaning it doesn't really matter what your ideas are if you can't defend them. And so there's this kind of breach of trust. But there's also dude, it's a war. What did you think war was? It's deprivation. It's not having stuff. It's your ability to, endure deprivation, and for that matter, to cause deprivation. But ultimately, you can even be deprived of your life in the way that you're trying to deprive other people of their life, and everything in between. Everything in between is not having hot showers, having bad conditions, not having things.
But it doesn't. I mean, but it obviously doesn't have to be. And Karen, I see you there in the room. If you can just turn on your camera and your mic, we'll bring you in. So yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, look, we're a rich country, right? I mean, and obviously, all things being equal, there's been studies that show that opposing armies with where one side has hot food as opposed to the same number of calories in cold food, that's a major fundamental advantage. I mean, look, you know how it is. It's like feeling clean and fed and well, and everything. It makes a huge difference to your state of mind as a for anything that you're going to do. I mean, one of the things I think about, people who are like arrested, it's like, oh God, I'd hate to be arrested and dragged off to jail if I hadn't had a chance to be wearing clean clothes and have a shower right beforehand. It would really make a difference, right? And that's not combat,
Right?
Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and bring in Karen. Thank you so much for joining us. We're retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski, geopolitical analyst and former Pentagon officer. Served at the NSA, became a critic of the Iraq War intelligence practices, and now comments on foreign policy and national security issues. Thanks you so much for coming on DeProgram.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I just spoke to Jamarl. So, hi, Jamarl. Good to see you again. 5 minutes.
Good to see you again. Karen, I did not know you were going to be on this show.
I didn't know. Yeah, no. It's all good. Yeah.
When Ted announced it, I was like, oh, okay.
That's funny. Long time no see, I guess, for you too.
Yeah.
So we were just kidding. We had a little bit of tech glitches at the top, but we're trying to bring the listeners and watchers up to speed about the situation on the USS Abraham Lincoln, where there are reports that, some reports are pretty outlandish. I'm not going to share those because of the rumor mill. But what we have confirmed is that there's been suicide attempts where sailors have actually jumped overboard. It's amazing that they survived, and that others were prevented from doing so. There's reports that there's like not enough food, not enough potable water, not enough ability to keep clean, not enough soap and other sanitary supplies. I mean, this is a country that with a $1 trillion plus annual defense budget, asking for $1.5 trillion in the next budget, the biggest, most powerful, wealthiest military in the world. What's going on?
Well, the system, the whole military acquisition system is broken, and the military leadership system, I think, is also broken. So is broken from top to bottom, and the lack of soap, the food issue, which we're not completely clear on what they're eating, but it's probably not what they expected. It looks bad. I don't know, if we verified some of these images, but we're not supporting, we don't have logistics. It's a logistics problem, and it's from top to bottom. It's a disaster. And Trump and Hegseth, are in denial here, apparently. And they say, well, no, it's not happening, but it is happening. And it's a reflection of a completely broken defense system. Of course, it's an offensive system, and that's broken too. We have an offensive military. That's why it costs so much. We're fighting in this particular battle. I think Iran has a annual military budget of something like it's 55 to 80 billion dollars, and they have 93 million people. So they're a fourth of our size, or a third of our size. No, fourth of our size. Let's say a fourth. And they spend $80 billion, and we're 4 times bigger. And we spend with the Intel budget, $1.5 trillion already. We don't talk about our Intel, the CIA budget and whatnot, but and Trump wants more. He wants higher, more trillions. So what are we doing with that money? Because it's not equating to warfighting capability.
Well, what are we doing with that money? I mean, I'm thinking about you study Operation Overlord D-Day and the logistics challenges of providing supply lines across the Atlantic Ocean. In 1944, what is going on? I mean, I've been to U.S. military facilities in Afghanistan, and they were well supplied. Yeah. The food was great. You were in serious danger. Your danger is obesity.
Yes.
What's happening?
Yeah, well, we're fighting a war heavily relying on the Navy, and we don't resupply our Navy like that. Plus, this is the first time our Navy's ever been shot at or at risk of being shot at. And probably, I think Jamarl and I were talking about the Gerald Ford with the fire. That was probably a hit. That was probably a direct impact of something. So the Navy's not prepared for that. They don't train for that. They do train to put fires out. Well, clearly, maybe not so much, because that fire was unable to be put out for 18 solid hours, which is just absolutely shocking. When every person on a Navy ship is a firefighter. I mean, that's how it used to be. If we've shifted that, then that's one more negative of our capability. But yeah, we aren't, the politicians and our top leadership, they have no concept of what it is they're asking the military to do. They listen to people like contractors who say, we can do this, we can do that. Here's the bill. Here's what we can promise you. Most of our top leadership in the military of all services, most of the generals and admirals intend to work in the system afterwards. So they are busy instead of being a 4-star or 3-star general at the top of their game, focusing everything they can on the philosophy of modern warfare, understanding how to make us more effective fight. No, that's not what they're thinking about. They're thinking about, which company do I want to work for, and how do I kiss their butts or provide them the most benefits in terms of my access, my contacts, my skill set with Congress, whatever it is that the company values, and how much will they pay me. The revolving door is everything, right? It's not just a side thing, it's everything. So we don't have top leaders in general. There may be one or two. And also, I don't want to pick on General Kane, because, they drew him out from retirement. I'm not sure what he was doing, if he was working for a company or not. You remember the last Secretary of Defense, or the Secretary of Defense we had, they had to waive the requirement because they drew him out from working for one of the big Raytheons or somebody, one of the big contractors, and they had to waive the requirement. There was a waiting requirement, and they waived it for him to get him back into the system. That was Secretary of Defense, I think, before Hegseth. But yeah, we have our generals are not, even Kane, who has been reportedly kind of the sane one in the Pentagon at the top level. Even him, we're not sure. We don't know. But most of them are preoccupied with other things, not taking care of the troops, not fighting wars. And of course, what wars do we fight? When's the last time American ship was shot at? When's the last time hardly any of our capability was actually taking return fire? We pick on people that can't fight back and call it a war, and we've done that for 35 years. So, yeah. It's only predictable that once we actually hit combat, we're going to be shocked. And honestly, when Jamarl and I talked a little against Russia using Ukraine, but the Russians also were not fighting ready when that thing started. They had they went through a series of firing of generals and lower folks. They.
What's happening?
Oriented. It kind of recalls for World War II. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, we're just not ready, and we are refusing to do what the Marines swear.
What's going on? Can anybody hear me?
No, I see messages there, but yeah, we have our military is just not adapting, overcoming, innovating the things that they have to do in order to prevail. We're not able to do that. Our system is so sclerotic. Our acquisition system.
Okay, this is a Rumble issue.
System is just a sclerotic system. It looks like people.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Rumble this morning.
I don't either. I'm going to just keep talking. I'll see.
Yeah.
Try to figure it out.
But anyway, yeah, there's so many things we can critique about how we got to where we are militarily. It's not the money, obviously. It's in fact, the money is probably part of the problem. We do military structure and acquisition and promotion all based on dollar returns. I hate to say, I'm I'm a free market guy, but if you're going to do a free market in your military, you're going to get taken advantage of. And our military system is totally taken advantage of. You have to be sharp if you want to use a free market to buy your systems.
Yes.
And we are doing that to some extent now. We are purchasing drone technology and things like that now. But everything else that we've gotten through the free market system of our military defensive thing is all 20th century stuff. It's all old crap. Nobody wants that. It's not even. I mean, look, the Patriot. We have two types of interceptors with the Patriot. What is it? The PAC-2 and the PAC-3. And I don't know much about those, but apparently nobody wants a PAC-2 because it doesn't even defend against basic stuff. So you got to have a PAC-3, and then you look at what's in it and how expensive it is and how rare and the rare earths, but just the very technological demands of that. You got to have a clean factory to build it in and all this other stuff. And so all of this, of course, puts profit into the hands of the military industrial complex that surrounds Washington. But none of it does anything to advance this boast that we have the most powerful military in the world, because we don't. And what bothers me as an American is we say we have this powerful military. And in the old days, before the internet and all these other things, you could say, yeah, probably true, because, America does a lot of things great. We love America. America's powerful 35 years ago. And we've been saying this and saying this and saying this, forgetting that the evidence is out there and everybody can see that no. You don't have to be scared of America. Just let them stumble over their own feet. It wouldn't surprise me if one of these carriers becomes dysfunctional at sea and has to be tugged home, with the whatever it is they tug carriers with,
This is like the hillbilly. It's like the hillbilly armor stuff from the Iraq War, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Armor. Yeah, that's right. Where we had to reinforce our own stuff. Now, see, that is actually almost criminal. You'd think we spend at that point we were probably spending $800 billion a year on our military, and we had guys out. We send them to war with things that were just not protected, and they had to salvage metal and buy their. And they also had to buy their own. They had to order their own Kevlar mat, bulletproof vest, and things like that. So and that was well reported. Actually, this made mainstream media. So the whole world sees us for what we are. And then we have this president who is just clownish. I mean, if it wasn't lives at risk and the world burning up at risk, or nuclear war at risk, if these things weren't out there, we would love watching Trump. We would just enjoy the heck out of it, funny as it can be. But he's not funny. You can't chuckle about it. You have to be fearful. How did we get here? And I don't think Americans really understand how we got here, because it has been a long, long path to get to Trump as president. And there's a lot of idiocracy memes, out there. Of course, Idiocracy, greatest movie ever made. I'm sorry. Greatest policy indictment. It's fantastic. It's hilarious.
So prescient. Yeah.
Yeah,
sadly,
and you seeing more and more people discovering it. And I remember when Idiocracy first came out. Of course, I didn't watch it in any theaters. I don't even think it was released in theaters. But what happened was the guy made a movie. I forget who it was. He's still in business making movies. Funny guy.
Like Judge.
Yeah. So he gets this movie made, and I think people saw it. The people that make decisions about what Hollywood will do. Sorry, I'm gonna have to shut my window here. These birds.
Oh, you're fine. Are those ducks?
Yes, I have ducks, and they hang out right outside, and I got the window open, but I'll shut it.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
They're noisy.
They're cute. It's not too bad on the air. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of I normally hear dogs.
Yeah, sometimes the dogs
are somewhere else, like you hear that. But
we're down to one dog, and he's pretty good as long as nobody comes out here. Hold on just a second. Let me show you.
You're perfectly fine. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Well, so Karen, I gotta ask you about something that JT and I were talking about right before you came on initially. There's so Hegseth says basically the families and the sailors that they're quoting are lying, but if they're not lying, anyway. Buck
Even
up,
if they're not,
Buttercup. Buck
Which is
up,
wild, by
Buttercup.
the way.
Your
He's like,
sailors.
yeah, they're just lying. The family is just making it up.
Yeah, they're either
How do
lying,
you say
or
that? Right.
if they're not lying, they just need to toughen up, right?
mm,
War fighters. So the thing is, is there something to that, or have our troops become unaccustomed to rough and tumble situations, even though obviously this is a completely unforced error of our own making? But
yeah.
shouldn't the abuse be coming from the enemy, not from our own side?
Yeah, I mean, it should be. But I actually, I do think the generations that have come up, all of the kids in the military now, the young people, even 30 and 40-year-old people, they're grown up in the internet world, internet generation. They've also grown up in a world after the latchkey children type thing. We had the generation before them, right after mine. They were like the kids that, mom's working, dad's working. You're just gonna have to watch yourself in the afternoon.
I'm the author of Revenge of the Latchkey Kids. That was my best-selling book.
Oh
Yeah,
my
so,
gosh!
yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
really funny you bring
Cool.
that up.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So these kids, they learned to do things and not worry about asking permission. Sometimes they were in charge. They did stuff, and you're sure they watched TV. We had TV, but now what we have, the kids that are in our military today, the younger, that next generation. I always get the generations messed up, but under 40s, these guys, a lot of them were overprotected by society, by their schools, and by their parents. I remember, and these are my kids. My kids are in that older 30 to 40 age. And, there was we didn't let them run wild like I did as a kid. Like probably all of us got to run wild as a kid, in their neighborhoods and do stuff. And we didn't have cell phones with us. Our parents weren't tracking us at every moment. They had no idea probably where we were half the time. And that's an attitude of that really leads to some sort of resilience and independence. And so we've got a whole culture, and it's not just American, but I know in this country, we see this. So people are, they don't trust we don't trust their ability to be resilient and strong and innovative. We have taught them to do what the authorities tell them. That's a government always does that, but we've done it well, I think, in a lot of those generations. I mean, you would think the pushback on COVID shots would have been concentrated amongst 20 to 40-year-olds, but it wasn't. It wasn't really. It was the latchkey kids and some of the boomers, some of them, and some of the young people too. But it wasn't overwhelmingly the young that pushed back against that, although I do think they are heavily involved in taking down flock cameras. So I love that about them. But the people that and then we have an all volunteer military, which we say to them, as a matter of your transaction, we're going to take you around the world. You're going to be well fed. You're going to be well paid. We're going to cover your expenses, and it's going to be great. And then we in a Navy in particular, we take them onto a Navy, which is just a floating island. If it's a carrier like the Lincoln, floating island, it's like a little town, and we work them 16 to 20 hours a day solid. We bunk them up in bunks that even if they can take a bath, even if they can have deodorant, even if they can eat well, and even if their toilets work, it's still not the most comfortable thing. And I was telling Jamarl, we were talking about the suicide rate. I looked at suicide rates. The Navy and the overall military suicide rate is higher than the suicide rate in federal prisons. And you mentioned
That's insane.
I know. And you mentioned a little bit, like, if you were going to get picked up by the government, which you, Ted, and you, Jamarl, and possibly me, we have to think about that possibility sometime in the future, because we say things that sometimes maybe the government doesn't like, whatever. We don't live in a free society. So we say, how would I plan for that? Well, I'd like to take a shower and put some clothes on that I can sleep in comfortably, because this is when I'm going to, life's going to be hard, and I want to feel good. So we know that those comforts make us feel better. Well, they don't have those. And like you mentioned with the laundry, I actually hadn't thought about the laundry situation, but yeah, if you're wearing socks and underwear that stand up on their own because they have been just not washed and they have,
you're miserable.
I know.
It gets to you psychologically. And I mean, the thing that perplexes me as a student of history, right, is that militaries have known sort of the basic needs of troops for in some cases thousands of years, right? Like Alexander the Great determined that an 80-pound pack was kind of ideal, and that's still kind of true. You know, I mean, with the Napoleon determined that you needed to have you know, a break, R&R for troops in combat at least every 30 days. That's still true. I mean, human beings haven't really changed their wiring. I mean, so, you know, what do you expect when you put 5,000 people into these heinous you know, environment? And of course, obviously, some of them are going to freak out.
Sure,
I mean,
exactly. You know, we were talking before about like the way humans actually have fought for centuries, and we're raiders. We're raiders. We like to go have a combat, have a fight, have a skirmish, have a gang war, but then we pull back. We pull back, and we, you know, and that's like special forces fights. They have no problem getting special forces. Special forces guys, they will eat that nasty food they have to eat, and they will suffer the field conditions, and they will get shot at, because they're probably the only ones in the military that actually normally ever get shot at, if they do. But they love that, because the fighting in combat is kind of like we play cowboys and Indians as a kid, except with real weapons. And so it's human. It's something that we can deal with. Somehow we've evolved to deal that way as the human little crowd. You know, we get together, we do these things.
And not for 9 months at a time.
No, definitely. The whole point is you have, and what they used to say about the military, you know, 99% boredom, and then 1% of the time is pure freak out, you know, adrenaline rush thing. So, but we need the breaks. And what we have with carriers, and I would say even with destroyers, which aren't nearly as big, but still have the same kind of thing, or submarines too, because that's you have a forced, controlled community of people, and honestly, it looks more like a town. And since we've integrated with women on these ships, now it even looks more like a small town. Well, a small town dominated by men, but still you got women there. So then you have to introduce the other factors of how we deal with each other, you know, the issues of what rest and relaxation looks like, because I know what it looks like on a Navy ship when you have men and women. Rest and relaxation takes a new form. And that form, none of these things are really encouraged by a military organization, you know, because it's just we've done things in a way that not only isn't human for the human mind, but we also have not, our commanders have not adapted. How do we manage this? They have said, oh, just like we're saying, well, you signed up for the military, you're gonna fight, you're gonna fight wars, you're gonna suffer. Well, first off, the wars don't have any meaning, right? Because we don't know what we're doing there. It was an illegal attack on Iran. Everything that's, you know, most of our modern people, even with the social media and internet blackout on these ships, these guys knew before that our government lies. How many wars have we fought in the Middle East that had no meaning? I mean, this big drawdown from this exit from Afghanistan, there was the moniker, we spent 20 years to change out the Taliban for the Taliban. That is the most true statement ever made. And that communicates to people that our government doesn't know what the hell it's doing, or if it does, it's not good for the United States. It's just a sheer waste of lives and money and resources. So, and we come out hated more by everybody afterwards. So there's no faith in that the mission itself is worthwhile, is worth suffering for. And we already know on ships, the biggest thing, food. The Navy in particular has the best food. Why do they have the best food? Because eating well, not just in calories, but the whole, you know, look, we're human beings. We eat, not all people eat 3 times a day, but I mean, there is a lot about food that is social, psychological. It's not just nourishment. It's a whole bunch of things. And how do these people are working? They work long shifts on the Navy. We know that, but we don't even cultivate their own society, because we're not providing them the opportunity to sit with their fellows and have a moment to eat and digest and chat. That is mental release. So anyway, we know we're torturing them mentally and physically in a lot of ways. We have the knowledge and technology and the psychologists. We know how you can mitigate that. You know, make sure they can exercise. You build in things that help their minds work. You can also give them amphetamines, which they probably are giving them, and because we give our military lots of drugs like that to jack them up, not just testosterone. Testosterone. Hegseth really likes it. He's probably using it, and that's fine. He's 40. He's over 40. He needs his testosterone. That's fine. But we give them lots of other drugs too, and I'm sure that the number of folks that we have in the younger generations that need speed, basically. What is it that they give, the Ritalin and all these, speed, hyped up amphetamine type drugs? We're giving them that. That's not helping.
Adderall.
Yes, and that's not helping
Adderall.
mental. Yeah, Adderall. Yeah, Adderall. Yeah, and that's not helping their mental condition, and that's just what we give them. That's not what they bring on board and give and share amongst themselves, which is the normal thing that that a community of people that need Adderall and have grown up with it and know that it helps them focus. Military turns the other eye, I'm sure, just says that's fine because we need these people to work 20 hours a day. Well, you can't do that for 9 months. Anyway, the whole system is screwed up, and there's no leadership, and there's no backbone, there's no morality going on to take care of these people. So I do have sympathy for them. And first off, they say, oh, well, you signed up for this and you're going to defend America. We're not defending America over there, and everybody knows it. So,
well, that brings up me. Before I let you go, we have two comments. If you're okay answering them from
sure.
our. Okay, so this is really related directly to what you were saying from Tim Band. What portion of these 5,000 sailors think that they're on the wrong side of humanity? I suspect more than half, if they could utter it. Instead, this is closeted and jacketed, yet in their psyches.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really, really important because, in part, because it was well publicized that this war was for Israel, and these guys have been on the ship for 9 months, but the very well publicized and videoed Gaza genocide conducted with our money and Israel's soldiers and tanks and stuff that we gave them, that's been going on for 3 years. So they've had at least 2 years of an awareness that U.S. policy in the Middle East is questionable. It may be immoral. If they are religious people, they may have an issue with it. And most people are not religious; they're just common sense. I say they may have religions, but I think mostly they're guided by kind of a sense of justice. I think most generations really just have their own sense of what's right and wrong, what's just and unjust. And we have taught multiple generations of kids in our schools, you don't bully people. You protect the weak. In fact, our military has often historically said we protect the weak. Why would we join World War II? Because they need us to protect them from being killed and murdered and ravaged and whatnot. So this idea that we protect the weak has been turned upside down in the past several years. And these guys on this ship, the guys and gals on these ships, know this very well. Of course, they're working all the time. Can they really talk about it? I'll tell you what, they probably can't, but there is that internalized sense, I'm sure. I have no doubt that what they're doing is not right. It's not moral. It's led by a political minority in Washington, which also includes our Israeli-controlled Washington, a foreign country, if you say what's in the interest of a foreign. Either way, none of that is acceptable for your average military guy. We didn't sign up to be in the IDF. If we want to be in the IDF, then we can do that if we're Jewish, or we can convert and then do it. We could do all these things. We have the choice. We didn't choose that. We're fighting for the American military. We're members of that. That's what they signed up for. So yeah, there's all kinds of, and when you think about suicide rates, in suicide, that is desperation. That is a sense of no way out. We know that hopelessness. But there's also anger and resentment in there against a world that is not fair. And you remember the Air Force guy that immolated himself in front of the Israeli embassy, I think in New York or Washington. I can't remember where.
I think it was Washington, yeah.
Yeah, he was a typical, I think in many ways, a typical American young person of his era who was aware of injustice and did not want to be associated with it. And of course, the U.S. government downplayed that, the military downplayed that. But I think the battle going on inside of the psyches of our soldiers and our sailors and Marines is an issue. Again, get these guys home, get this war over with. We're going to find out, and I think Americans are going to be shocked at what we've put these people through.
It's pretty disgusting. And from Farhaj, thanks for the $10. Two questions for you, Karen. Is the majority of the budget, military budget, possibly going to some secret program like the UFO UAP community claims? And what's the last question number two? What's the real death toll of troops and contractors?
Oh my gosh. I do think, I don't know where the majority is going, but I can guarantee you a good percentage, maybe the majority, is going into people's pockets for stock buybacks in these big companies. I mean, look, our money is worth less and less every minute, right? Because we keep borrowing. And I think the smart people who are in the right position to get dollars turn them into something that won't lose its value. So they're buying their stock back. They're investing in their company. They're building bunkers for themselves that, in various places, So I think a lot of it's just the profit that's being scraped off. And also, we also produce crappy stuff. You can produce really crappy weapons and spend a lot doing it. There's that. Some of it goes to troops, but we know for years we haven't been taking care of our troops. There was an issue, I think it was before this, that had come up in the Army and Air Force barracks. We don't take care of our barracks. They're falling apart. They're filled with black mold. We got people bunking up here because most of the rooms are uninhabitable. That's been reported for years. So we know we don't take care of the human side of our military. And if it's going to strange programs, I do think we're spending money on bioweapons that we don't talk about. Anything we don't want to talk about, you can be sure we're spending money on it, and we will never.
I'm going to ask you one question, Karen. Before I lied, I have one more. When I hear you talk, I kind of hear: is this also kind of this mentality part of just the general disrespect and disregard for labor, right? Isn't this kind of like also it's a labor management issue, and these are workers who are being are not allowed to unionize or organize. If they do, they'll be put on trial, right? And so literally they're completely powerless, and the boss can do anything they want. And if the boss isn't benevolent, working conditions go to hell.
That's right. Yeah. The military always is like that. And it's kind of slave labor. This is why, you oppose, most normal people oppose I say normal people, libertarians oppose the draft, right? Because it is a violation of 13th Amendment. It's slave labor. We oppose it because we have disavowed slavery of any type, but the powers that be, slavery, all kinds of slavery exists, right? If people don't have choices and they're stuck in a place and you're exploiting them in some way or another, that's slavery. We talk about human trafficking, that's slavery. People in prison are slaves, right? You can't tell me people in prisons are not slaves, and they're working. They make them work. They have them work. And I'm sure they got nothing else to do. They may think it's okay to work, but their profit, the money they make, the things they make goes to the prison and the prison contractors, So the military is much the same. And Jamal and I were talking, I looked up a report from just 2024, so a very recent report about suicide rates, and compared it to what's going on in our prison systems. They had suicide rates for local jails, which you do have that, state prisons and federal. The military suicide rate on a normal year is almost twice as big as it is for federal prisoner suicide rates. So they are, in a sense, treated as captured labor. Once they sign the contract, you have then consented. So I guess you could say it's like what is it they used to call them?
Indentured servitude.
Indentured servants. They're like indentured. They're indentured servants. And once you get an indentured servant in your home, it's basically you can treat them like a slave. They have no rights and can't do much. So now again, you can say, well, they're unified by a belief in serving the defense of our country. That'd be fine if that's what we're doing, but we're not doing that. We haven't done that for decades and decades and decades. So, they're slave labor. I forgot the second question it
was about is the money going to some secret program?
Oh yeah,
bring wormhole to the other side of the galaxy.
Oh my gosh, honestly, at this point, if they would just stop fighting the wars, they can make all the wormholes they want. Just go find a wormhole, get the technology, and all y'all
I know
get
some
out of
people
it.
I would put into that wormhole.
That's right, and we'll have a vote on who we send up there. So that'll be good. But
thanks, Karen. Really appreciate you coming on, and thanks for bearing with our technical problems here on Rumble.
Yeah. No, well, thanks so much for having me. Aren't you a cartoonist also?
Yeah.
I had your cartoons in my cubicle at the Pentagon.
No way.
Oh yes, indeed.
Seriously?
I had a whole thing because we knew what was going on there with the lies and stuff. We see the intel, then we'd see top secret stuff in the New York Times. Well, who gave them that, and why is it out of context, and why has that actually been debunked? But you're giving it to the paper like it's real. Anyway, so I had cartoons and some articles, but mainly cartoons that were poking fun. I had some of yours on my wall behind my cubicle, and I did it on purpose to see if anybody would say anything. Of course, they don't, because we are also captive in the Pentagon. We're just like we're the indentured servants. We don't have an opinion. We don't have any value. We just do what we're told. We are machines, cogs in a machine, and that's one way of managing people. But obviously, it goes foul when you get the example of like what's happening on our carriers. You can see how that really doesn't work. It's not sustainable. It's wrong. But yeah. So anyway, it's a delight to meet you, really, because
likewise,
I've been a fan for a long time.
Please come back. This was great. Really appreciate you. All right, that was. Thank you very much. And that was former U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski. A geopolitical analyst and former Pentagon officer. Okay. Thank you very much to you. We only have a couple of minutes left, but we should, I don't think this requires much more. Mike Huckabee, about as Zionist as Zionists can get, without being Israeli himself. I suppose dual citizenship is in his future. He has seen enough of these attacks against this American Palestinian family in the occupied West Bank that even he said it was really bad and is calling for the Israelis to do something. Is this one of those moments that kind of, we're going to look back and say, oh, this thing started to turn around then within the administration? Or is this just so loud it can't be ignored?
The latter. It's so loud it can't be ignored. I mean, it's an American family, right? And you could say, well, they're Palestinian. It's an American family. It's difficult for the administration to, even for Huckabee apparently, and let's keep in mind, Huckabee is a politician, right? I suppose he's trying to balance on two things. In one sense, he's making the statement, but in another sense, it doesn't matter. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to take place. Huckabee, this is a letter from Huckabee that is not even strongly worded. It's a nothing. I mean, if you think it's different, let me know. I'm curious on your take.
No, I mean, look, I think I'm on the same page as you. I was just wondering if I was missing something here, because I mean, it is the first time I've heard a senior Trump administration official say anything critical of Israel.
Well, it matters. Or in that sense, it's just that egregious where he felt like he needed to say something. Like, meaning there was no other position he could take, right? Like, you could say,
he could have just been quiet.
Yeah, he could have been quiet. True. Do we know?
That's what they've been doing,
Well, do we know why he made the statement? Like, was he asked by a reporter? What was the?
No, he made the statement of his own accord on social media. So he felt compelled to say something in a public space. It wasn't just reactive. He wasn't caught in a hallway or something like that.
It must have been that egregious.
Yeah,
I mean, that is weird.
Well, also this family is calling out to the Associated Press and saying, "Hey, we've got fucking settlers, trying to kill us, and we can't leave our home, and we're running out of food and water."
See, maybe because it hit the U.S. public, but again, that it's still strange because usually they don't respond to the U.S. public in that regard. Usually, they make some excuse for Israel.
That's what I thought.
Well, this family,
I thought it was notable. Yeah,
it is. It is, but I would be curious about what his motivation is. I don't believe Huckabee cares one iota about a Palestinian life, even if that Palestinian just so happen to be American.
I'm sure that's totally true. All right, JT, thanks so much. Stay tuned for TMI that's coming up right now. JT and I will be back with Robbie tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Bye, everyone.
Have a good one, guys.